Right, hello, welcome to the first of today's tutorials on basic C# scripting. Today we're going to have a look at components, how they work, how to use the get component script to access them, and we're also going to have a look at adding components and how to access and play audio. Quite a lot, I know, but yeah, let's get going and start. So, Unity runs using game objects. So if we select the orange cube here, you'll notice in the inspector on the right hand side we have components. Now this particular object, or all objects actually, have a header and a transform. The transform is where it is in world space, so the position, X, Y and Z, the rotation and the scale. Then here we have a mesh renderer, a box collider, component. So these are all components. They all do different things. Now when you select and import, say for example, a point light, it's exactly the same thing. So it's got a header and a transform, and then this one's got a light component. So when you add pre-built game objects, that's all they are. So you can make your own or use the pre-built ones. Okay, so what we want to do generally in games is either are we going to be wanting to access these components and change them somehow with script, so either changing the transform of where things are, or it's rotated, or changing the mesh renderer, turning it on and off, or accessing the collider and what's going on. So what I want to do today is show you how you script and access those components and how you would edit them. So I'm going to create a new C# script. I'm going to call it component access. Now remember, no spaces. Today lots of you are writing with spaces in there. As I pointed out in the first video, no spaces. So let's open that up. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to access the components in a certain game object. Zoom in so you can actually see this. That should be alright, and this should be relatively straightforward. So we have got this object here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a component to it and then get the script to access it. So I'm going to add component, going to go to audio and add an audio source. Now what this is going to do is it's going to play a noise. Basically we're going to turn it into a doorbell. So there's the audio source. Now I can add an audio clip to play on a wake. I'm going to uncheck that, and there's lots of other settings. When we look at audio in more depth, we'll go through that. But at the moment, all I want to do is have an audio source. So this particular script, I'm going to attach to this orange box. Okay, so up here at the top, we're going to declare our variables. Now, we don't need it to be public, so we can have a private variable. And it's going to be an audio source. So if you remember, we type the type it is, followed by giving it a name. Now I'm just going to call it AS for audio source. So there we are. That is set up. Now because it's private, it won't appear here when we add the script. That's just updated. Let's get the switch. So if I add that, here's the script, but it's not asking me to drag anything in. So what we've got to do is access this component using script. Now it's very, very easy to do. So we're going to set this variable equal to the audio source component that's attached to this object. So AS equals, and then we want get components. Okay, we can just click it there. And then it's less than and greater than symbols. And inside there is the type of component we want. So in this case, it's audio source with a capital A and a capital S. And then we're going to follow that by open and close brackets and a semicolon. So we've now set that variable, that audio source variable, and found the component attached to this object. Now, to prove that we've got it, what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at another very useful command line, which is enabled. So we're going to put as.enabled equals false. And that's everything. So what we're actually going to do is that component is going to look for this audio source, and at the start it's going to turn it off. So we'll turn that script off. So we'll press play. Okay, we're now in play mode and this audio source is on. But when I turn this particular script on, did you notice the audio source turned off? Okay, so I'll turn it back on. Oh yeah, it only runs once. So press play, and when I turn that script on and the start function runs, the audio source is no longer enabled, or enabled equals false. Okay, so what we can do with that is we can get it to play sound effects. So we're going to have a look at another variable now. This one's going to be a public variable, so we can drag things in. And instead of an audio source, it's going to be an audio clip. And I'm going to call it doorbell. Okay, so I'm going to save that, and we'll go back to our main scene. And over here under component access, we want to drag in a sound. If I click the little target, I can go off, and I think I've downloaded, yeah, a doorbell. So I've got that sound loaded in. So what we've got here is we've got an audio source, which through script we've found exactly which audio source, and we've created a variable audio clip to hold the doorbell. So what we've got here now then is if we use our on mouse down function that we learned in previous sessions, we can get it to play the sound. So what we're going to do is as, so the audio source, dot. Now what we want is we want play one shot. So it's there, play one shot. And what that does is it plays a sound once. The parameters that go inside the bracket are the clip we want it to play, comma, and then here we go, the volume scale, which is asking for a float. These little snippets are wonderfully helpful. So if we want it to be at normal volume 1.0 and then F to denote that it's a float. Okay, so if we go back and press play, what we should have is a doorbell. So we'll press play again, and we've got a doorbell. Isn't that exciting? So, little recap then on that particular one. We've got get components. We'll be using this a lot over the next few videos. We've got private audio source and creating the audio source in the start. We've got a public variable for the audio clip, so we drag in, and on mouse down we get the audio source, and then we play this particular sound once through it.